Assalamu alaikum students. Our next lecture is about the Odyssey, which is written by Homer. It is on page 112. It is a story from ancient Greece. Well, it is about the Odysseus who is returning home after the Trojan War. This journey to go back home, it took around 10 years. On his journey, he experienced many adventures. One of these dangers was the music of the sirens. Sirens were actually a kind of creature which was half bird and half woman. They were ugly, but they make very beautiful sounds. They make the beautiful sounds of the music, and they attract the sailors. And when they attract the sailors, they were lured toward their island and they kill them. So we are going to read the text. The day before Odysseus and his men were to continue their journey, the goddess Circe warned him of the dangers ahead. "You must not allow your men to hear the music of sirens," she warned. "Their sweet voice will lure them and you on to their island, and you will never return home. Their voices are beautiful, but they are half-bird creatures who will kill you." The next day, as they were sailing close to the island of Sirens, the sea became calm, the wind dropped, and the ship would no longer sail. Odysseus told his men about the danger of the sirens' music. Well, students, as I have already told you that when the Odysseus started his journey to go back home, goddess Circe warned him about the dangers of the music of sirens, that they will lure him and his men to the island of death, and they will never return home, as sirens will kill them. Next day, when they were near the island of sirens, Odysseus warned his men about the dangers of the sirens' music. Now come to the text. "I am going to fill your ears with beeswax so you don't hear the music. That way you will not come under the spell and your lives will be saved," he explained. "When I have filled your ears with beeswax, you must tie me tightly to the ship's mast." Mast is a vertical pole which is used in the ship. "So that I can hear the music, but I cannot steer." Steer means to turn toward. "Steer the ship toward the island of death." In these lines, he said that he will fill his men's ears with beeswax, so they will not hear the music. He further said that his men must tie Odysseus tightly to the ship mast, so when he would hear the music, but he can not steer the ship toward the island of death. The men agreed, and Odysseus took the large piece of beeswax and cut it up into small pieces with his sword. He warmed the pieces in his hands to make them soft, and then filled the ears of the men so that they were deaf to the sounds of the sirens. The men then tied Odysseus tightly with ropes to the ship's mast and started to row strongly with their oars. The music of the sirens began to fill the air and cast its spell on the Odysseus. He was filled with a longing to follow it. He tried to break free from his ropes, but his men tied him even more tightly. At last they passed the danger and the music faded. The sirens were angry that the ship had escaped them, but Odysseus and his men were happy. The men took the wax out of their ears, untied Odysseus from the mast, and continued safely on their journey home. Well, in these lines we have came across that Odysseus cut beeswax into small pieces and then wound them in his hands and filled the ears of his men with it. Then his men tied him with ropes to the ship's mast and rowed toward the island of death. In this way, they crossed the dangerous area safely. Sirens were angry as they escaped, but Odysseus and his men were happy. When they crossed the place, they took out the wax from their ears and untied the Odysseus and continued his journey safely toward their homes. Well, the lesson is done. Now come to Next page, here we have question and answers. But before we proceed toward the question and answers, first I have a question for you. Like, here we have some words and you have to match them. Like, you can see the words. Like, first I have numbered them like 1, 2, 3, 4 up till 6. Number 1 is warm. It goes with advice of danger. Calm. Calm goes with smooth. Mast. Vertical support for sails. Deaf means unable to hear. Longing means strong desire. And fade means becomes less. Students, we have question and answers on page 114. First question is, what did the goddess Circe warn Odysseus about? The answer is, the goddess Circe warned him of the dangers of the music of sirens that will lure him and his men to the island of death. Question number 2. What did Odysseus do with the large piece of beeswax? Why did he do this? He cut a large piece of beeswax into small pieces and warmed them in his hands to make them soft and filled the ears of the men with it. He did this so that his men may become deaf to the music of the sirens. Now question 3. How can you tell that Odysseus was not sure whether he was strong enough to resist the sirens' music? The answer is, Odysseus asked his men to tie him tightly to the mast of the ship so that he may not be able to steer the ship toward the island of death. This tells us that Odysseus was not sure whether he was strong enough to resist sirens' music. Question number 4. What happened when Odysseus heard the music? Answer is, he was filled with the longing to follow the music. He tried to break free of his ropes, but his men tied him even more tightly. And the last question, which is question number 5. Who were the victors and who were the losers in the story? Odysseus and his men were victors and the sirens were losers in the story. The lesson is done. Thank you.